your children, or now they're in a status that now you're trying to marry them. That's not right. All right, let's read.
Verse 12. But if it does not make shalom with you, and you shall fight against you, and they shall fight against you, then you shall besiege it. And Yahuwah your power shall give it into your hands, and you shall smite every male in it with the edge of the sword. Only the women and the little ones, and the livestock, and all that is in the city, all its spoil, you take as plunder for yourselves. And you shall eat the enemy's plunder, which Yahuwah your power gives you. Verse 15. Do so to all the cities which are very far from you, which are not of the cities of these nations, only of the cities of these people, which Yahuwah your power gives you as an inheritance. You do not keep alive any that breathe. But you shall certainly put them under the ban, the Hittite and the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. Verse 18. Lest they teach you to do according to all their abominations, which they have done for their mighty ones, and you sin against Yahuwah your power. Verse 19. When you besiege a city for a long time by fighting against it to take it, you do not destroy its trees by wielding an axe against them. If you do eat of them, do not cut them down, for is the tree of the field a man to be besieged by you? And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, he's given instructions on what they're supposed to do. Now, the children, the women and the children were spared and they were saved. Why? Because Yahuwah said so. Once again, nowhere does he say marry them. We were discussing something last week. The NYK ministers. And we were talking about why would they spare the women and why would they spare the children. You have to understand, when the women were spared, and these were women most of the time that were virgins, had no husband. And so when they were spared because we believe that when they got other slaves or indigent servants, people that would serve them, slaves, that they would basically marry them and they would have families. Are you following me?
Yes.
But not like European people did. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Nowhere was any of that type of action or any of that done to any of the people. Are you following me?
Yes.
Excuse me. Anybody that was a captive was treated like a person. You know how I know? Because when you read in Devarim chapter 5, and it talks about the Sabbath rest, did it not say also the servants?
Yes. Yes.
Rest. Your maid servants, your maidens and your male servants rested too. So they didn't work 24/9. They rested on the Sabbath. So you have to understand, when people try to compare slavery to us having slaves and having our ancestors having servants, there's a difference from beginning to end.
God.
There was a difference. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
There's a difference. Okay. Now, that is why I believe they spared them, because they wanted to use them so that they can have more. And then you have to understand, they would grow up, and then they would have other slaves, men and women, and they could marry within their own community. Are you following me?
Yes.
And not marry into ours. So, all right. Verse 20 says, only the trees of which thou knowest that they are not trees for food, them thou mayest destroy and cut down, that thou mayest build bulwarks against the city that maketh war with thee until it fall. In other words, you don't go and cut down an apple tree. It's a source of food. So why would you kill the source of food? The ones that can't be eaten and utilized, those are the ones you change. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. Very important. Now, this includes the young boys since males in the previous verse denotes adult. The Hittites, the Girgashites, one of the 7 nations whose territory was promised to Yasharal, is omitted here because it was the smallest and most insignificant of them. When Yahuwah told them through Moshe, in other words, don't go messing with anybody outside of that what was given to you. Stay within the confinement and the borders of that what is yours. Don't go outside of that. He said, don't go make war with people that you're not supposed to. If it's not yours, leave it alone. That should be understood. But sometimes that is not really understood. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
Now this is when it says a long time. Now they were saying that a siege should not be started less than 3 days before the Shabbat, because they couldn't fight on the Shabbat. So in other words, when you got ready to go to war, you had to use wisdom and you had to be a strategist. Okay, let's look at this, because if we started now and it take us longer than this, that means we're going to have to lay up. And anybody knows that you can't let up. If you're in war trying to take something, you got to apply pressure. And then you go and say, well, we're going to take the Shabbat. Now that gives them a time to come and get you, because you rested. So you had to use wisdom and you had to be a strategist in order to do these things. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now, for is the tree of the field man? For man's life depends on the tree. And the meaning of the verse is, do not cut down a fruit tree which is necessary to man for food. You may eat of it, but not use it as a weapon of offense against the besieged city. Once again, you don't cut down food. You wouldn't cut down an apple tree or orange tree. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Even you look at pecan trees, walnut trees. Those trees are a source of food. So you don't do it. Are y'all listening to me?
Yes.
Now, until it fall, the protecting wall understands it as until the city is subdued. The city has to be subdued until from it and say it's done. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
It has to be completely done, not just a little bit. It had to be completely done. All right, chapter 21, and we're reading all the way to verse 9. Who's going to read for me?
I'll read. Okay, we're not starting at 1
Mm-hmm.
and read how many more?
All the way to verse 9.
Tonight.
Verse 9.
If one be found slain in the land which Yahuwah your power gives you to possess it, lying in the field, and it be not known who has killed him, then your elders and your judges shall come forth, and they shall measure unto the cities which are round about him that is dead. And it shall be that the city which is next to the slain man, even the elders of that city, shall take an heifer which has not done any work, and which is not drawn in the yoke. And the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer unto a valley with flowing water, which is neither plowed nor sown, and shall strike off the heifer's neck there in the valley. And the Kohanim, the sons of Luah, shall come near, and bless it in the name of Yahuwah. And by their word shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. And all the elders of that city that are next unto the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. Excuse me. And they shall answer and say, our hands have not shed this blood, neither have our eyes seen it. Be merciful, O Yahuwah, unto your people, Yasharal, whom you have redeemed, and lay not innocent blood unto your people of Yasharal, the charge. And the blood shall be forgiven them. So you shall put away the guilt of innocent blood from among you, when you shall do that which is right in the sight of Yahuwah. And it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. Now, it says, if one be found slain, the subject of waging war against an enemy is immediately followed by that relating to a corpse being found, which is also the result of a fight between two persons. So that person was killed. They had to go and find out. So this is how they did it. In other words, they had to send out the crime scene investigators. They had to go and investigate the crime scene and make sure no evidence was placed there and no evidence was removed. And so they had to go and they had to look at that. Thy elders, the elders of the cities in the neighborhood had to be brought forth, and they had to come and check it out. They shall measure the distance between the corpse and all the surrounding cities was to be measured to ascertain which of them was nearest. In other words, let's see what. In other words, they had to present a crime scene, and they had to basically do like Criminal Minds. They had to sit and they had to look at it and say, okay, if they was over there and this is the closest city, what would be the probability that they would kill this person and then run there because they could get away, and so forth, so on. So they had to sit there and they had to basically relive or try to reenact or project what would have happened or taken place for that corpse to be there. So you have to understand it was a lot that had to be done. We just didn't get up there, we just live every day and that's it. There was a lot of things presented, many cases presented to them. Things you start thinking, okay, y'all gonna kill a person and leave them out there? So now you got to look at this, especially when you've been already told certain things, how to handle certain situations, and then you don't do right. So they had to be able to determine whether it was two people of the same tribe or from another tribe. They had to be able to sit down and look at it from every angle to see what was taken, how this thing was to be worked out. Are you all following me?
Yes.
Now it says, not even wrought with, in plowing, not drawn in the yoke, for the purpose of transporting loads, a rough valley, an untilled valley, shall break the heifer's neck. As the heifer which was a year old had produced no offspring, it was put to death to expiate the murder of a man who could no longer beget children. The purpose of breaking the heifer's neck was to make the incident known to the public. It might lead to the detection of the murderer. So they had to do that in order to draw them out. Are y'all following me? Yeah. Just like in Criminal Minds, they had to do stuff so that they could get who that person was. Are you following me? Yeah. So it's important we understand. It ain't like, once again, our people was just, we just went to bed, went to sleep, and that's it. And we woke up and we just were doing all kind of crazy stuff. No, things had to be done. And this is why you had to stay focused and you had to keep Torah before you. Because you're dealing with that point, you have to make sure that the shalom of Yahuwah would be your comfort, that it would guide you and it would keep you and it would protect you. Are you hearing me? Yes. This is important that this would go about. Now, once again, it had to draw that person out because they knew they're onto me. You see what I'm saying? Shoot, they got Patrick. So you got to understand this is what's taking place for this to be brought up. Now, to minister Baruch, the priests who had been chosen to bring Baruch to the people were the best fitted to make atonement for the shedding of innocent blood. Innocent blood. This is what they had to do. Okay? Now, according to their word, since the priests in their various duties came constantly in contact with the people, they might be able to detect the murderer. This is why they had to have hands-on relationship. Are you following me? Yes. Because then you got to remember now, because they had priests, they had officers in each city. So you're in constant contact. You're not up here and the people are way down here. You had a working relationship, healthy relationship with them, so that when things happen, somebody done something wrong. They get that old agitated way about them, and they can't be comfortable, can't look you straight in the eye, and they all fidgety. But then they knew, okay, you done did something you wasn't supposed to do. Hold your hands out. You got blood on your hands. Are you following me? Yes. So they had to do these, and you had to have somebody that was willing to be patient enough and truly be a person that couldn't be bribed or be like, you know what, I don't feel like dealing with this. We're just going to go past it and quickly deal with this. No, they had to investigate everything to make sure everything was done accordingly so that innocent person's death would not go unavenged. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
The guilty person would be judged, and that the punishment would be brought forward. So that was very important. To have them, they break the heifer's neck. Whew. Our hands have not shed this blood. We have not caused his death even indirectly, as we never saw him, and so could not have let him depart without food or escort. Forgive the people of Yashra who may have been guilty of failing to guard the dangerous highways. Now, once again, we're guilty of that. In other words, they had to keep a watch. You know how we have, well, we don't really have that, but the scenario is you had to have people watching in the highways and byways, the places that were dangerous. But when a person removed themselves from their position, when a person takes a break, an unscheduled break or an unauthorized break, and right at the time you leave your post, somebody gets snatched. Are you hearing me? Somebody gets stole with a brick and lose their life. This is why it is important that even though it's referring here, showing us the makeup, that we as the children of Yasharal never leave our posts. Never leave our posts. What that means, you may not see us here all the time, but it doesn't mean we've left our posts. We are still praying, we're still praising, we're still worshiping, and we're still seeking the face of Yahuwah. Actually seeking the heart of Yahuwah through Yahush our Mashiach. Never leave your post, because the moment you leave your post is the moment that somebody could die. That's why we have to remain prayerful, praying for Yasharal. Yahuwah, don't let another deceiving, lying prophet into the ears of your people. Don't let another lie hit the heart of your. They are at a point to where they're ready to give in to this lie because they don't know what. Pray the strength of our people, right, so that our people won't get weary in well doing and weary in this time.
That's right.
It's important that we remain committed to prayer. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Committed to it. We have to. Time feel like, is anybody praying for me? Anybody, calling out my name? Anybody saying keep them strengthened? Anybody saying I'll take care of? You better know He's gonna take care of us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's important for us to understand. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now listen to what He's saying. So shalt thou put away the innocent blood. If the murderer is discovered after the heifer's neck have been broken, he has to be sentenced to death. That which is right in the eyes of Yahuwah. If the people adhere to the will of Yahuwah, acts of bloodshed will not take place in their land. That is why it is important that we remain committed. The reason why more blood was shed is because people were not committed to the instructions of Abba Yahuwah. And that's why people were dying. And this is why people even now will continue to die, because no commitment. Be committed to the instructions of Abba Yahuwah. All right, let us turn our attention to Yashayah 51 and 12, and we'll read all the way to chapter 52, verse 12. 51, 12, 52, 12. Starting at verse 12.
And it is so.
All right. When you have it said, it is so.
And it is so.
Y'all need more time?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, yeah,
51 and 12. Mm-hmm.
and it is so.
All right. You read, we're starting at verse 12. You can read all the way to verse 20. No, read 12 to 19.
And it is so.
Yeshayahu chapter 51, verse 12. I, even I, am he who comforts you.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you that you fear mortal men, the sons of men who are but grass? That you forget Yahuwah your Maker, who stretched out the Shemayim and laid the foundations of the earth, that you live in constant terror every day because of the wrath of the oppressor, who is bent on destruction. For where is the wrath of the oppressor? The cowering prisoners will soon be set free. They will not die in their dungeon, nor will they lack bread. For I am Yahuwah your power, who turns on the sea so that its waves roar. Yahuwah of power is his name. I have put my words in your mouth and covered you with the shadow of my hand. I who set the Shemayim in place, who laid the foundations of the earth, and who say to Zion, you are my people. Awake, awake, rise up, Yasharal, Yerushalayim. You who have drunk from the hand of Yahuwah, the cup of his wrath. You who have drained it to its dregs, the goblet that makes men stagger. Of all the sons she bore, there was none to guide her. Of all the sons she reared, there was none to take her by the hand. These double calamities have come upon you. Who can comfort you? Ruin and destruction, famine and sword. Who can console you? And it is so.
And it is so. Well, when the prophets spoke, you see their words, they were poor in speech when they spoke to the children of Yahshua. You have to understand, we can understand poetic. We spoke stuff and we sung disaster. We sung victory just like we sung disaster. We sung the victories. And so it's just in us to be poetic because we serve a poetic Savior. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
He said, I am he that comfort you. Comforts who? Yahshua. We have to take comfort in knowing that he's comforting us and he will continue to comfort us. Excuse me. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Very, very important for these things. Who art thou? As a people pious and fearing Yahuwah men, Yahshua should not fear a mortal being. We should never fear men. We should always reverence and fear Yahuwah. And it is so. That stretches forth the Shemayim. Yahuwah is the creator of the universe. Is surely also capable of delivering man from his oppressors. He's going to deliver us. He will deliver us, not just our physical man, but he will deliver our ruach, and he will deliver our minds and our hearts. One of the number one things that I find is that you can be physically removed from a situation, but you can still be entangled in it emotionally and mentally. And that can cause your ruin, because if you're not mentally and emotionally untangled from it, eventually it'll begin to show up in your physical man. But he's able to free us from it all. And it is so. Where is the fury to Yom or to Morrow? It will no longer exist. He that is bent down shall speedily be loosed. The oppressive enemy, now girded, will soon be loosed and rendered weak. The exiles will be quickly liberated from the foreign yoke. That's a promise for us. Soon and very soon we will be liberated, but we got to follow in the instructions. If you notice, whenever the instructions come and he gives us outline, he always comes back to comfort us and tell us it's going to be, but you got to line up. We can't expect it for the Baruch and we still walking contrary to his instructions. It won't happen. He shall not go down dying into the pit. Though living in exile in great distress, Yahshua as a people, we will not perish. Yahuwah will sustain us while in captivity or in the land of our enemies. And on our release, have that ultimate freedom. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And that's what we're looking for. Stirreth up. Some give the for stirreth up. Some give the power to deliver Yahshua. He is the creator of all things. He's going to deliver us. He's going to bring. He will resume his national life or our national life in a newly created world. He's going to preserve us, of whom it is said that we will be numerous as the stars of Shemayim and the dust of the earth. It is of the restoration of the land. This is why, once again, when I hear people say that expecting and anticipating going is not the place because of how it looks, you have to understand it has to be restored. The reason it looks like a desolate, dry, dusty bucket is because until the rightful owners are there, there's no reason for restoration. See, because that's proof that it's not theirs. If it was theirs, how come it's not flowing with vegetation? How come it's not yapa? How come it's not the rivers are not flowing? How come it's not green grass where it's supposed to be? How come it still looks like ruins? Because restoration can't take place till the true people are restored to their rightful place.
Yes.
Till we are restored to our rightful place. Are you following me?
Yes.
This is very important. Thou hast drunken the beaker. You have paid the penalty in full for all your sins. Your deliverance from conditions. We gotta live right. We gotta prepare to go home. You can't tell me you preparing to go home. They're talking about the dollar circulates. Get a negative post. They're talking about the dollar and been all over the world. Get a negative post. It'll be all on everybody's base. Careful. It's very important for us to understand. Desolation and destruction, and the famine and the sword. The two latter are identical with the two former. Desolate being caused by the sword and destruction by famine. This twofold disaster befell Yasharal in his own land before he had been driven from it. How shall I comfort thee? Whom can I bring to comfort thee? For the tragedy of Yasharal has no parallel in the history of man. Through whom I comfort thee. Who is he going to comfort us through? Yahush. He's going to comfort us through Yahush, which he's already comforting us. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Antelope defines the Ibram word as a species of bird. An antelope is not a bird. It is not an antelope is like a roe. If you look at an antelope is like a roe. If you look at an antelope is one that can jump. You remember when Dawood said, "Make my feet as what? Hinds feet." Means you're able to bounce. That's what talking about an animal. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. As an antelope in a net. In that verse, in verse 20, thy sons have fainted, they lie at the head of all the streets, as an antelope in a net, which we know antelopes, well, at that time they could, because people were catching them just as they catch them today. Once again, this comes with people trying to rewrite and assume, well, they can't get caught up in that, just like people would think that a whale can't get caught up in a net, but it can. Many have, and even dolphins. You would not believe that a dolphin can get caught up in the net, but they do, and they end up drowning and dying because they get stuck in them. Y'all follow me? Yes. Somebody would think, well, why would a dolphin? Why? How come not more fish? Sometimes animals can get caught up in these traps. So the thing of it is showing the trap, is showing the animal versus the trap. How could an antelope get caught up in the net? Easily distracted. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And just people learning, just once again, just something happening. Now, drunk not with wine, his helpless state is not due to the influence of wine, but to suffering. Sounds like it today, doesn't it?
Yes.
People are not drunken because of wine. Many people are drunken because of the things that are happening. Yahuwah, our Savior. Not the nations, but Yahuwah will be Yasharal's master, and he will punish Yasharal's enemies. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Thy soul. The suffering of the body affects also the soul. Thou hast laid thy back. Yasharal had endured sufferings with great fortitude because of his Ahab for Yahuwah. Once again, it's important that we understand that in spite of all, we still see where Yasharal, our people, do and did Ahab Yahuwah. There were those, though, that just could not maintain because they just kept on getting in and out. But overall, we still see the Ahab of our people for Yahuwah. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right. Let's read chapter 52. And we're going to start at all the way to 12, 52, and we're going to read. I'm trying to see where we stopped. Yeah, verse 1. We're going to read from 1 to 12. Mhm.
Awake, awake. Put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on the beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the Kodesh city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust. Arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion.
Mhm.
For thus saith Yahuwah, ye have sold yourselves for naught, and ye shall be rendered without money. For thus says Yahuwah your power. My people went down aforetime into Mitzrayim to sojourn there, and the Assyrians oppressed them without cause. Now therefore, what have I here, saith Yahuwah, that my people is taken away for naught? For they that rule over them make them to howl, saith Yahuwah, and my name continually every day is blasphemed. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore they shall know in that day that I am he that doth speak. Behold, it is I. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth shalom, that bringeth good tidings, and that publisheth salvation, that said unto Zion, thy power reigneth. Thy watchmen shall lift up the voice, and shall they sing, for they shall see eye to eye when Yahuwah shall bring again Zion. Break forth into joy, sing together, ye waste places of Jerusalem. For Yahuwah hath comforted his people, he hath redeemed Jerusalem. Yahuwah hath made bare his Kodesh arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our power. Depart ye, go out from thence, touch no unclean thing, go ye out of the midst of her, that bear the vessels of power. For ye shall not go out with haste, nor go by flight, for Yahuwah will go before you, and Yahuwah of Yashrael will be your reward, reward, and it is so.
And it is so. Let me say, touch no unclean thing. Now, when you see up here where he says, and Yahuwah had about Yasharal, in this instance, you can understand when he said he made bare his arm. How did he make Yahush bare? He brought him open. Remember, when he was brought before the people, and he gave of his life, and every nation, everybody saw Yahush. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
They saw him when he was brought forth. They saw him when he was executed. They saw this. But when people look at this, because it is in a sentence and it's in here that is speaking of the children of Yasharal, automatically they assume that this has to be talking about Yasharal. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Why was Yahush made bare? So that we could be covered. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
This is why he had to be made bare, so we would be covered. Once again, it's important that we understand Yahushua has been spoken about throughout the writings, but we many a times could not identify him because people are looking for Christ. You will never find that in there. That because that is not his name. And once again, if you look at Christ and look at Christos, you will see that these renderings mean many of it means crazy. And it means other things. So you have to be careful with a lot of the renderings. And remember, that's Greek. That's Greek. That is not Hebrew. So we have to be careful of the stuff that